Solange Moujin joins me on the set for today's press review. Hi, Solange.
Hi, Jeannie.
You're starting off with the situation in Ukraine with a lot of focus on the visit of German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to Kiev.
Yeah, and this could be Scholz's last shot at diplomacy. That is, if U.S. fears are correct, that an invasion could happen any day now. The German paper Hamburger Morgenpost says that the new chancellor is facing his most difficult challenge yet, namely his meeting tomorrow with Vladimir Putin. Now, Politico's Europe site says that regardless of whether Scholz is successful or not in keeping talks going, his entering into the arena with Russia will score him much-needed points with Germany's allies, who've been alarmed by the silence and the muddled messages that have been coming over the crisis.
Now, cartoonists are quite skeptical, about what Germany can actually bring to those talks.
Yeah, many papers are not putting too much stock into Scholz's being able to turn things around. As we can see in a cartoon by Chapat for Der Spiegel, the Chancellor is ringing the final bell for popcorn and candy before the tank show begins. And the Telegraph's cartoonist Patrick Blower has a couple of NATO soldiers discussing Germany's peace plea, with one saying, "I don't think much of the German contribution," referring here to concerns over Germany's close business ties with Russia and and its reliance on Russian natural gas. And Nicola Jennings, she has a cartoon on this Valentine's Day of a Cupid Putin shooting his love arrow at Ukraine, which is actually a missile signed from Russia with love. And finally, Morton Moreland has drawn Putin as a gangster, shooting out a request for Ukraine to be my Valentine.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit now and take a look at the sports world with, of course, reaction to the Super Bowl. The Los Angeles Rams beat Cincinnati, but it was the halftime show that's really got people talking.
Yeah, it is watched on average by 100 million people, and it was rap music rather than the usual rock that dominated this halftime show. And as USA Today praises the concert, saying it was not a clash of hip-hop titans, but a formidable alliance of all-star musicians, such as Mary J. Blige, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Eminem. And it is his performance that received a lot of attention because, as Deadline puts it, the rap artist, quote, stuck it to the NFL by kneeling at the end of his song, which is a tribute to Colin Kaepernick's 2016 protest of racism and the NFL's intolerance of Kaepernick. As Vanity Fair tells us, the risk-averse NFL was micromanaging the show, but the group of musicians simply, quote, overruled the league, and for good reason. According to WBUR, the Boston radio site, it calls the NFL a, quote, $1 billion plantation, referring to a lawsuit that's underway, which claims that it is a racist league and it does sham interviews of minority candidates. The lawsuit also notes that none of the 32 team owners are black, but they all profit from the players, 70% of whom are black. And the site calls out the racism in the NFL and says it is just a symptom of, quote, a greater systemic racism problem in American society.
All right, next, you've been focusing on Uganda, where schools opened up last month after being shut for 2 years due to COVID.
Yeah, Uganda holds a sad record of the world's longest school shutdown, according to Courrier International, and it hurt not only the students, but the schools themselves, with a number of private schools having closed forever, and also some 4,300 others are now in dire financial difficulty, which means, according to the Pan-African magazine Continent, that up to a third of Ugandan school kids could soon no longer have a classroom to go to. Combination of financial difficulties faced by parents to pay the tuitions, former students who stayed in jobs that they took on during the pandemic, and a, quote, catastrophic public school system means that education in Uganda is in rocky terrain.
All right, just to wrap up now, Solange, today is February 14th, also known as Valentine's Day, and love is in the air.
Yeah, and there are some really cute stories in the press out there today. I particularly like one from France Bleu. It's a profile of 98-year-old Paul and his sweetheart, 88-year-old Louisette. The two old-timers met 2 years ago thanks to a dating service, but falling in love at nearly 100, it has not kept them from moving in together, albeit in an assisted living facility. Activity, where Louisette explains that they kiss 20 to 25 times a day, and, quote, they don't do just that. Now, in regard to such kisses, the Sydney Morning Herald, it explains why it is so fun to kiss. Not only are our lips our most exposed erogenous zone, but kissing sends messages to our brains that releases endorphins, and kissing uses over a dozen muscles. It lets us smell a partner's pheromones, and also, as the Herald explains, the romantic kisses between partners even heighten and harmonize a couple's brain activity. So at any age, today or any day, it is time to get those puckers out.
All right, we got the message, everybody. Go start kissing. Solange, thank you so much for that. Solange Moujan there with today's press review.